Hi, I'm Steve. This video is going to show you how I set up this freeborn shaper cutter to make a drop leaf or rule joint on the shaper. And this will entail full profile cuts, and I'm going to discuss how I maintain my settings and configuration. The first part of this video will be generic for all shapers, and the last portions of this video will be specific to the Format 4 Profile 45Z shaper that I have. So let's get to the shaper. I keep a data sheet on every shaper cutter that I've got. I typically go to the manufacturer's website or catalog or an email where the distributor provided me the drawing for this, and I use the snippet tool in Windows and paste it into this window, which is in, this form was created in Microsoft Excel. And I keep pertinent information over here for zero setups, speed, and the spacers below the cutter. And then I have notes, and I already know, because I've used this cutter before on my previous shaper, on where I want the spindle height based. Note that I run both pieces face down, and I need to lower the spindle however many millimeters for a drop leaf. It doesn't require over tightening, just snug it up. And while the spindle's locked, I always like to just do this to make sure that cutter head does not rotate. I will be making a full profile cut here. And the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the spindle height. And this portion of this cutter here, this corner is what I'm going to be looking at, because the distance between this and the surface of the table will be the reveal for the bead on the tabletop. So I've got some scrap ply. You just need a straight edge, and you want to get in this area, and my fence is too far back, so I need to bring it forward. So I'm close, and I just want to pull that fence out. Now it's no longer rocking. Now what I need to do is check to see if I'm hitting that cutter, and you just want it to be hitting ever so slightly. This is kind of like setting up a joiner knife, where when you rotate the head, you just want that knife touching and then just moving this workpiece back ever so slowly. Okay, I can just hear it here. So now my fence plate is adjusted to where it is in line with the minimum cutting diameter of this cutter. And I'm just going to raise this outfeed fence such that I have a bearing surface at the very top of this, which is where the least amount of material is removed. I'm going to be doing a full profile cut. I will be removing material from this entire edge. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to loosen the fence, and I'm going to set the fence back 1 millimeter. The fence height's adjusted, so I've got full support on the outfeed side. But if I do this now, I'll remove 1 millimeter of material, and there's no offset on the outfeed fence side, so I know I'm going to end up with a severe snipe on this side, and once I get off this fence and transfer to that one, there will be snipe. So what I need to do is loosen this fence position, and my shaper is such that the outfeed fence is the one you adjust for offset. Some shapers, the infeed fence offsets. I just take this hand wheel, there's a digital indicator up here. Now what should happen, when I take a straight piece here, it should run into that fence, and it should be about 1 millimeter. Now I'm going to feed this manually. If I was doing this on a real table, I would set up the power feeder, but you wouldn't be able to see much. And this is called a centric guard. It came with my shaper. It's a product made by Eigner. It's got adjustable positions here for vertical hold down and horizontal hold down. They're spring clamps. I will not be using this portion. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'll raise this and then just put it down. This is just kind of acts as a hold down. There is a bit of springiness to it. You just don't want too much downward force. And I should be able to use this improved push block I made a video on this a number of months ago, and it looks like I'm probably good to go there. Okay, so this is the reveal that I've got, and I don't know, that 20 millimeter stock, that may work fine for this. We'll find out. So just as a gauge to check my setup, I should be just over 4 millimeters, and I am. I just see just a slight ledge here. I suppose if I determine what that was by some calipers. Find a spot here, and I'm 4.3 millimeters, which is over 4 millimeters, and that's kind of what I wanted. So now the next step will be to go to set the shaper cutter to cut the counter profile of this. And in that case, you do not want that. You want some clearance, and what I normally do is use a business card. I establish a business card as my clearance. And this thickness of this is 0.28 millimeters. Now, unfortunately, Freeborn's catalog and their website don't provide a whole lot of information here. This is the drawing that's available. They give you the height, but they don't give you the dimensions from here to the base or from here to the top. So I'm going to make an assumption of 1 inch or 25.4 millimeters. And to get the top cut, I will lower the spindle by 1 inch or 25.4 millimeters. Now, if you have a conventional machine, you could use some type of height measurement. You could have used a ruler and just drop this down. Okay, so for this portion of the cut, I'm removing material from the top, and my bottom will have minimal. It'll actually have 1 millimeter removed off the bottom of this face. The problem is, I can get my fingers under here, so I need to do a couple of things. I need to use this. This is called a filler strip. If you have a wooden fence or just a standard aluminum fence, this will not be a problem for you. You don't have to go through this step. And I'll just lower that fence down and insert that in position. Now I'll lower this guard. Let's check the fit. Here was my tabletop portion. This will be the leaf portion. And when I install a business card between this for the reveal, I should see an even, and I'm not being able to see this from this angle. I should be able to see a 0.3 millimeter gap all the way down, and I see it here and here, but it looks like there's some contact in this area. So what that means is I need to take more material off of this. So I need to lower my spindle. I think I'm probably going to shoot for 0.2 millimeters lower, and that will just give me a relief gap here, and I'll run this piece again. Okay, so I've lowered the spindle by 0.2 millimeters. Now that isn't a whole lot, but it's enough to matter. I need 3 hands. And what I should see is a consistent gap all the way around with this flush at the top. And it looks fairly consistent. Okay. This about completes the generic version of this video that would be applicable to all shapers. Now I'm going to move on to the calibration. This is the portion that's specific to the Format 4 Profile 45Z machine. Anyway, I'm going to close part 1 of this out, and I appreciate you watching. So let's continue with part 2. What I need to do is create a new tool because this tool is not in my database. So I'm going to go to Tooling. There's a Tooling button down here. I'm going to click Tooling. And then I'm going to go to the Tooling menu. And I want to scroll up and use Create Tool 26. Which is empty, and that's the tool number that I've selected for my summary sheet. So now click on this, double click it, and it comes up with the data for tool 26. And some of these fields you have to fill in and others you don't. The fields that you have to fill in, and what I suggest is whatever your naming convention is, stick with it. Establish a convention for whatever you use and stick with it. So I'm going to enter this, and I like to put in my category. So my category here is profile, and I can't figure out how to do a caps lock here, so unfortunately you have to do the shift lock on every letter if you want it capitalized. So this is a profile. -001. The diameter of this cutter is 4 inches. So if you're have your machine set for imperial, you can just set 4 as your diameter, but I've got to convert it, so my diameter in millimeters is 101.6. And you press enter there. The next field you have to enter is the height of the cutter. And the height of this cutter is 2.002 inches, 50.9 millimeters. So I need to enter 50.9. This value here in that field is just a calculated value. You don't have to enter that. It self-calculates. It's really half of the cutting height of your cutter. And when you go to the main screen, there's a mid position of the cutter, which isn't really applicable for this one. But I like to use that for adjustable groovers, so it does calculate that for you. This one you have to put in, this is the spindle diameter. And for 1 1/4 inch spindle, 31.75 millimeters. This field here is the number of spacers, or the thickness of the spacers you have below your cutter head. And I've got 25 millimeters. And this one you don't change. This is a calibration parameter, I believe, for the machine. So I've never changed that. This field is for a router spindle, which I do not have on this machine. And this field is really optional for my machine. This is the speed. And I've got a 5-speed unit. You got to change the belt position. If you had variable frequency drive, this field really needs to be filled in, because this will tell you what speed you want to run this cutter at. And normally I just put it on there for whatever speed I'm running. And in my case, it's 6,000 RPM. Now once you do that, I hit save and click OK. And that takes me home. And this is my home screen, and right now to the top of this cutter it shows 51.2, but I haven't set the 0 yet. It has no idea. The spindle tilt is 0. The speed is set at 6,000. That's sensed off of the belt position, and this is the fence position. What I want to do now, and it really doesn't matter, but you need to be aware of this. When I set the 0 on this, it's not actually going to be the 0 to the top of the cutter head or even to the bottom. It's going to be somewhere in between. It's going to be that corner where the reveal is. What I want to do now to set the spindle height at 0, I'm going to go set 0, spindle height, set 0, and save it. So now when I go back to the home screen, and you can position the spindle up and down using these buttons to reestablish it. You can actually enter a number there if you like. So now I go home, and it's set my spindle height at 0, or my cutter height at 0. Now let's go to the fence position. And the fence position, I'm setting my 0. My fence is actually flush with the minimum cutting diameter now. I haven't moved it. So I'm just going to go set 0 again and go to the fence position and set 0 and save that and go back home. So now my 0 is set for this cutter at the minimum cutting diameter. And I make note of that in my on my summary sheet here, this summary sheet. And I've actually already done that. The spindle height 0 is based on the top table reveal position. And here my 0 fence reference is the minimum diameter. So I'm at the main screen now. Right now this is the first step to cut the rule joint on the tabletop portion. So this will be the round over or bead portion. To establish a program for cut sequence, my first cut will be the tabletop. So I'm going to click on Programs, and I'm going to create a new program. And the new program, it actually took the value from the main screen and put those values in. So I like to have the initial cut set up so it does that for me automatically. And I can change the name of this. This says Program 1, tool number 26, and that's the diameter of 101.6. That doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, except for the tool number. So what I'm going to do is go edit that, and this will be the tabletop. Spelling. What did I do here? I've got two L's. Tabletop. Rule. Cut. 4.3 millimeter reveal. And then press enter. So that's named that first step in this program. Now I want to create the second step. And the second step, I can just go enter that value. So I click the plus and it creates the second step of the program. Now I can go in and edit that. The rule joint, rule joint for drop leaf cut and press enter. So that labeled that step. Now I can edit the values of this. Actually, I can go back to the first one and edit those values too. But right now the spindle height's really the only thing I need to change on this. And in this case, for the 4.4 millimeter reveal, and with the 0.3 millimeter clearance, and I probably ought to just say 0.3 millimeter clearance. So I'm going to say that that's 25.6, change the sign, and enter. And I want to go in and edit this for drop leaf cut 0.3 millimeter clearance. Now I'll hit save. And it asks me to save the program. So I'm just going to call this rule joint and enter, and then click the check and it's saved. So now I'm just going to go home. Now let's say I've just gone in, I've set up my cutter with the per my sheet with the spacers. Now I'll just go to my program. So my programs, I'm going to select this program, which is the rule joint, and I want to go start. But this is going, hang on here, I'm just going to stop. I want to select the first line of my program and click start. Now it says I've got a new molding and the blue light. Let me zoom back out here because you can't see that piece of it. When I did that, it says I need to change things, so now my blue light's flashing, and this is what needs to change. My fence position needs to change. So, and also my spindle height, so it's changing to 0. Now I got to release and press the button again, and now it's adjusting the fence position. So now what it's done for my first cut, it has established those values. So now once it's made that setting, it says you're ready for your first cut. Now I'll just press machine start, go through my operation, but I've already done that. I don't need to do that again. Okay, so now the next cut, when I select line 2, by hitting that button there, it's saying, all right, now I need to go change your machine settings again. I need to change your spindle height by 25.6, down 25.6. So now my cutter head's moving down when I press the blue flashing light. And once I get there, now I'm ready to make the second cut. So I've finished my second cuts, and then I go press the down, new molding, and it's really done at that point. So that's just a simple program for the Format 4 Profile 45Z shaper. That way I don't have to remember. If I want to go change the clearance, I can go alter this and save the program again or say I want to change that value. Maybe I want to add another value for 0.4 millimeter clearance. So I just go in, add a new line, and change that to -25, and I can actually skip steps and rename those for how much clearance it is. So that's how you do programming on the Profile 45Z shaper. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.